Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, assistant coach, University of Wisconsin, Erik Posegay. Erik, how's it going, man?
Man, fired up to be here. I'm excited to hop on the podcast. You guys have done such a great job and brought on so many distinguished guests, recently that I'm humbled that you would even want me to be on it. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm excited to pick your brain a little. You've coached at some pretty cool places, worked with some great athletes. I guess let's start where you are right now. Give us the update. Is Wisconsin in the water right now? What's your summer looked like? I know, everyone's kind of been in a different boat. But what have the past 2 months looked like for you?
Yeah, like a lot of other, people right now, I think, we have not been able to work with our undergraduates at all. We're excited to hopefully have that opportunity here in the next couple of weeks. But, right now there's no time frame on that. I think our university kind of wants to safely bring the student body back first, and then after that, we'll find out. So our summer has pretty much just been working with our 3 postgraduate athletes who are going to continue at least for another year here to Olympic trials. So it's kind of been very low key for us. So.
Yeah. So that sounds nice. I know you just went on a family vacation. How did that go?
Oh, that's just craziness, man. That's like, we get this beach house at the Outer Banks. It's 11 people in one house. It's my 2 young ones running around causing all sorts of chaos. We have a couple dogs down there. So between the dogs and them, it's trying to corral everybody, so that's what family vacation is, man. It's a lot of corralling. So, but it was fun. It was fun to see everybody. We definitely take that for granted, sometimes and doing what we love to do. And definitely when you're around them, you realize that's something you can't take for granted. So it was a fun week.
Yeah. So let's, you came to Wisconsin from Penn State. When Yuri got the job as head coach at Wisconsin, what was, what convinced you to go down there and work with him?
Oh, absolutely. Yuri and I have been friends for a long time. I mean, back when, it was a young, he had a young Katie Ledecky and she was up and coming, and, I had G Ryan. So they were swimming the same events, and, we kind of connected a long time ago with that kind of comparing, notes on what we were doing in training and seeing each other at meets and kind of rooting for each other, and, so, when he got the head coaching job, at Wisconsin, and we kind of began some preliminary discussions, I knew, to have the opportunity to collaborate with him, and he sold me on the vision that he had for Wisconsin, and, in terms of what he was trying to, do there, and, something I could not pass up on. So.
Yeah. So let's bring it back to your North Baltimore days. You as you mentioned, you worked with G Ryan. I know, I think you were involved with that postgraduate group that was, that Bowman had in like 2013, 2014. How did you end up at North Baltimore, and tell me a little bit about the athletes you worked with and kind of how your time developed there?
Yeah, it was one of those where I was a head coach at Parkland Aquatic Club in Pennsylvania before that, and we had started taking a group of athletes down to North Baltimore's Christmas meet. And in the beginning, it was one of those where we weren't, as established yet. So it took some time, and eventually we started to have some really good success throughout up and down the program. And I think, we definitely caught, Bob's eye when, he came back from Michigan. So, when Scott Armstrong left that summer, when he took his, sabbatical year, it was one of those where, he's like, would you like to come down? And, we're going to have this group here going to the Olympic year. He's like, I think you can learn a lot, working with me and working with them, so it was one of those where it was an easy relocation because Baltimore was only about like 3 hours from where I live. So that was a super easy relocation compared to what I've had recently. So that was an easy move. And it was just, my wife, and I moving down there. So, and then having that opportunity to work with, not only the swimmers that NBAC had, but, obviously G moved down as well. So, and having the opportunity to have, her in that group at the time, was something that, it was just a win-win in a lot of different aspects. So.
Yeah. So again, that post grad group, please add names. But there was Phelps at a point. There was Connor Dwyer, a lot of Fries, who's a Danish distance swimmer. Yannick Agnel, the 200 free Olympic champion from France. There were some heavy hitters. What the first practice you saw with that group? What was it like?
Oh my, it was incredible. It was like nothing I'd ever seen in terms of like what they were able to do, workouts. Cause we had MP before that and obviously Allison Schmidt, and the things that they were doing, leading up to 2012, I'd never seen before in workout. And now it's like, you had Yanni and Connor in 2013, and then you have, Lotta as well coming over. And then you have Ost coming in the group and Tom Luxinger, and all these guys could just train at such a high level. Honestly, it was like, you could not take a day off. Like if you took a day off or you were not feeling like you were at your best that day, it didn't even matter. Obviously Chase Kalish was in there as well. It's like they would just go at each other. It was incredible. Like there were no days off. Even on recovery days, they were competing. Like Bob would give these famous go at your own pace sets, which, if you're a swimmer at NBAC, you know what that is. And basically it's supposed to be a recovery workout.
Uh-huh.
You could go as slow as you want. There were no intervals on it. And these guys would not, it ended up starting out that way, but then you'd have like Luxinger, who was usually, he would kind of start pushing it a little bit, and you'd have like some others that would do that, obviously, and then before you know it, it's like guys are like ripping through these like 7K workouts in now, hour and 35 minutes, and it should be taking them hour and 45, 2 hours, taking their time and working on technique. But it was even like on that, it was just so. It was just that was the hardest part, I think, for Bob and all of us to kind of grapple with when we'd set up these workouts, was just like, how do we give them recovery sessions and not have it turn into, these are all ultra competitive individuals. So
did you write sets for them? And if so, was it like specific kind of work, or was it a collaborative effort between you and Bob? Were there any workouts you were ever super proud of?
Let me tell you about that. Let me first back that up. So, when I first came to NBAC, Coleman, this will be a funny story for you. Like in terms of like Bob and his mentorship and why it's important to have a mentor. Like I had some success with G and, another swimmer, they were on the junior Pan Pac team, that summer before I came to Bob. And it's like, I felt like, okay, like I felt like I actually kind of know something. Like I knew I didn't know a lot, but I felt like I knew something. And he's like, when he came down there initially, he's like, all right, you're not allowed to write any workouts until I know that you know how to do things, my way. Basically, you're going to learn how to do it the NBAC way, the way that's produced. So there I am, not able to write any workouts, for months. I'm not talking about a week, a month. And there I am, like, so it's like, learning and watching Bob and why he's, writing workouts the way it is. And, and then it was like, all right, Bob, how do I speed this up? Because that's what we all love to do. We all love to write workouts. How do I speed this up? He's like, he like hands me this, like, it's not even like a stack. It's like, just like, his Bob writes all his workouts and records all of them. And he hands me this like tub of workout pads, Coleman, where it's like, I'm like, he's like, start looking through these. And I'm like, so I take these home and I start taking these pads home, and my wife's like, what are you doing? And it's like, cause I spent hours going through like, Keenan Robinson, who was there as well. We used to call them the Dead Sea Scrolls, cause it was like just years of Michael Phelps and NBAC workouts, like from 1999 all the way through like 2010, his Michigan years. He's like, so I'm like going through these, I'm like writing notes down. And like, after I'd spent like literally a month where it was like 8 hours a day on the weekends combing through the Dead Sea Scrolls, then finally it was like, here you go. You can start writing workouts for, some of the distance ladies. And then, like when he'd go away, like on trips, he'd say, all right, like if he would go away on a speaking engagement, you can go write workouts for Michael and Allison. He would establish some parameters, like we want to do 5K this day and it should be a threshold, or it should be like quality. We talked about it like that, but it was this gradual progression. It was like, which again was the blessing in disguise, Coleman. I can't tell you as a young coach how valuable it was for him to make me learn kind of like a different language, like how to do it the NBAC way and the Bob Bowman way. So.
And so, was there ever a time when you did write a workout for them and you just totally botched it?
Oh, all the time. Michael would know. Michael was great. MP was great, man. He would look at a workout and he'd be like, just know, in terms of set wise, up, you didn't give us enough rest in that interval, or you like, he'd look at like 10 300s. I mean, he would do it, but he'd be like, after the set, you could have done, so it wasn't even like Bob. It was Michael. Michael would tell me if I had done a good job right in the workout or not, because he was so intuitive, in terms of what was a precise amount. And he like I probably learned that as much from Michael as I did from Bob, was like the value of like giving somebody an extra 10 seconds on like a repeat over 200, or like how much 5 seconds mattered in like 100 repeat, and like how it's totally changed in terms of what you could hold and stuff like that. So, I mean, there were sets, Coleman, like too many to even remember, where it was just like when I was learning how to do it the NBAC way and give rest, I was just, when I was younger, I always thought, less rest. And they would accuse me of interval squashing, the interval squasher, so it was like one of those where it's like, how about you give some more rest? So it was like, and as I did that, then, I really saw like how much more effort they could give on stuff. And like, it really kind of was like fired me up to see how fast they could go on some certain sets. So, I mean, I would say probably there was a set of 10 400s free, where I remember it was just like, they're looking at it and I'm looking at it going, uh-oh, this is not going to go well. And Bob was away at the time, so he was just kind of giving me some freedom at that time. And I'd tell him the results, and he's like, Bob was very understanding and very easy to work for with that. And, I would tell him the results, and he's like, well, how'd that go? And I was like, well, could have gone a lot better. Could have given him some more rest. So it was, so I appreciate Michael for kind of helping me as well, kind of helping me grow as a coach. So.
Yeah. And then, I'm a pretty big NBA fan, and you kind of, you have those athletes who have such a high IQ for the sport, right? And they talk about that in basketball a lot. And it seems like, obviously greatest swimmer of all time, he probably has a pretty high IQ for the sport, and kind of knowing how to train, how to race, things like that.
Yeah, it was amazing in terms of like, people say, well, Coleman, they say, what was like, they ask, what was it like coaching Michael, or what was it like working with Michael? What was he like, really good at, other than like what everybody saw in the Olympics? It's like Bob could give him a workout, and he knew it's like, if it was a descend set, like he knew exactly how to descend, where, generally speaking, normally, not every single time, but generally speaking, where he knew like, I could start here, where it wasn't too slow, it's not too fast, and it's just like a really good quality, like all the way through on the descending set. And I've never seen anybody like that, to be able to do that. Like, he knew exactly where to start, he knew exactly where to end. So it's like the amount that he got out of each set was incredible, and we've had a lot of really good athletes. Yannick was also pretty good with that, but it's amazing the ability for, the highest level swimmer like that to be able to feel out how to do a set. And and I'm not sure, again, how do they learn how to do that? People talk about, Michael and Bob have mentioned it before, just how he never missed workouts. It's like, that's how I think you learn. I don't think you're born with it. I think it's one of those like swimming IQ things that you develop over time, you just gain from experience. And once you learn how to do it, Coleman, it just opens up all these possibilities for your training.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was competing for, 20 years.
Yeah.
I think, you pick up a few things, I'm sure, but that's really cool. Pretty incredible to hear.
Yeah.
With that crew, I'm sure there was numerous workouts where you were amazed. Do you have one or two where at the end of the workout, your jaw was just on the floor?
Oh, I mean, amazing. There was a set, Yanni had done, Agnel, and we were just, I had it actually on tape. Like, I'm upset right now because I had it on my phone. I think I dropped my phone in a pool at some point in time. But I lost the video, where it was like, we watched him in a brief, and we talk about it now. It's like Keenan and Bob, where it's like he pushed at the end of a set. He pushed a 44, second 100-yard free at the end of a set, where he literally took, it was like 6 strokes a lap. And it was just like, I'd never seen anybody do it with that level of proficiency and that speed, and like in a brief, and this is like a shallow NBAC indoor pool. Like, I can remember it now. Like, where, I was just amazed. So that was like one like that. Like he could do stuff like that. That was just incredible. And there was another day where we were out there doing long course 150s, and him and Connor, and MP were doing these 150s, freestyle. And they were like, again, I think we had a suit on, but they, yeah, we had definitely had a suit on that day. And they were pushing like 119, 120, 100, meter long course freestyle 150s, like at the end of a set, where I was just like, what am I watching right now? Where am I? And I'm just like looking around, like pinching myself. It's like one of those where you realize it. And it's like, God, I hope I never take this for granted, because it was truly a special time. We were just watching these guys rip things off. And it's like, there were like, Coleman, there were so many like that, but those are some of the ones where I'm just like amazed, like witnessing this, and just how fast they were going. And I definitely think they fed off of each other and brought out the best in each other on those days.
Yeah. And so you also hear about how that's kind of the opposite. You mentioned that they couldn't recover because they were so competitive. Oh, yeah. Were there times when you had to separate them because it's just like, okay, well, if they're near each other, they're going to fight to the death?
Yeah. And it was like, cause they're so like, uber competitive. So there were days, yes, where we were fortunate that Connor Dwyer was still racing, the IM at the time. Like he was still doing a pretty good 4 IM. Like he was still doing obviously a world-class 2 IM. So we would pull Connor out. We would pull MP out. Chase would go over there. Tom Luxinger could do fly, and we'd pull all these guys out, and they would do IM sets while like, Yanni would, do some freestyle yet. Matt McLean would do freestyle with them. So they would kind of do it, but it wasn't like, what it is when it's just like, you're just looking around, your head's on a swivel going, Mike, where is everybody coming from? And it's like, so we were able to do that, and they would go do an IM workout, or they would do something like that, where Bob was really, really good at trying to feel that out and do that, and kind of like, he would get a sense that they were maybe overreached that, like a Wednesday or Thursday. And he would say, all right, Big E, you go over and take the IMers today. I'm going to sit on the freestylers, or you take the freestyle men and with the distance women, and you go run a freestyle set with them. And I'm going to take these guys over here and do an IM set where we try to do that. But it was so hard, because even on days like that, it was like in the smaller, like kind of split groups, they were still finding ways to compete. They were still finding ways to go at it. And, it was just amazing. So.
I mean, yeah, I can't even imagine a group like that. And so then you helped with that? And then were you also coaching like the club team as well?
Yeah. So like on a typical day like that, people say, what was NBAC like for you back in the day? Like, so literally we would get there, we would have the high school kids practice in the morning 3 times a week. So they would go from 5:45 to 7. The pros would go from 7 to 8:30, 8:45, something like that. So I was on deck in the mornings for like 3 hours. And then literally in the afternoon, the pros would come back from 1:45 p.m. And then I would literally coach the pros. And then we would have like two of the next level high school groups after that. So I would be off deck at like, I don't know, 8 o'clock. So it was like 5:45 to like 7 or 8:30 in the morning. And it would be from like 1:45 to almost 8 o'clock. And we just did that every single day. And NBAC was one of those clubs, Coleman, that you think Sunday's a day off? No. There's no day off. So I was in there with the high school groups on Sunday, Sunday morning, so you have to love the sport, Coleman. And you can only, I feel like you can do that for a certain amount of years before you start to, obviously need, look for something else and search for, whatever else is out there. So I think that's kind of, what kind of led me to college coaching in Penn State and stuff like that. So.
Sure. Yeah. So, I think we've always heard that anecdote that, from 04 to 08 or from 2000 to 08, Phelps never took, a single day off. He swam on Sundays, he swam on holidays. Yep. How, did these high school kids swim 7 days a week always, or was that just kind of depending on your situation, or was Sunday more of a makeup day? Break down the Sunday swim for me.
Yeah, the Sunday swim for our normal, high school athlete was just a recovery day. They would come in for, an hour and a half, maybe max, hour 15. It was more of a recovery day. We weren't doing a lot of volume. It was all pretty much all drills. It was nothing super hard. And that was one of those where it was not mandatory. Sunday was never mandatory. I think, they always felt it was kind of maybe expected, but it was never mandatory. and yeah, if they missed the day, or, we had a lot of individuals, Coleman, that would drive in from like 20 minutes away or 30 minutes away. Like, Coleman Stewart was one that came down from York, and Coleman couldn't make the morning workouts. So like, Coleman was pretty much just doing singles, in the afternoons. That he would come on Sundays. Like, he would go 7 days a week just because, he wasn't doing very many mornings or consistently doing mornings, because of the drive. So Coleman would do it, and for our kids who lived in the areas, like, if they were beat up, take off Sunday, or they had a miss, do Sunday. So it was like, it was never one that we had, full attendance on.
Gotcha. And so how far is that from York for Mr. Coleman Stewart?
Coleman was driving, if Coleman watched this, and I still, time to time I touch base with him, but it's like, he'll correct me. I'm going to say it's probably about, let's say it's about an hour. We'll say it's about an hour. I don't know what it is like going home, because it's probably a little longer, but yeah, Coleman put some miles on that car. I'll tell you. Him and his brother Noah swam for a year as well. So they were putting some mileage on the old Stewart vehicle. So. Okay.
Yeah, that's dedication.
It is dedication. Coleman was, I think he was driving the farthest. So, Sierra Runge also drove Sierra also drove a fair amount as well. But I think Sierra ended up getting a place near Baltimore for a couple of years, but Sierra drove a fair amount in the beginning too. So Sierra and Coleman they're the two PA kids. They get kind of the gold star for that one. So.
And well, we see how that work's paid off for both of them.
Yes, absolutely.
So after Bob left, how much longer were you at North Baltimore?
Oh, I did the year right after, because Bob left in 15. So I took the team through the 15-16 season, all the way through the Olympics. And, we had some postgraduates in the area. A girl who I actually went to the Olympics with, Anna Bogdanoski, who swam at Johns Hopkins. She was taking a year off, and she was still in the area and was training for that. And then obviously Lotta was still there, and we had a couple high schoolers as well that stayed and trained during that time. So, it was just one of those where I was at a point where, it's like, all right, I'm going to stay for these guys and, to ease the transition. But, for me, obviously at that time, I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. And, I had my eye on college coaching by that point in time. So, it was just a natural transition, and I could kind of help the team out, during that year, as I kind of saw, kind of had the opportunity to kind of see what else was out there.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so, what was it? Was it much of a change for you transitioning to the actual head coach of North Baltimore for that year?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, club programs are all set up differently, and we did not have a big board of directors at that time, as it was the NBAC kind of tradition. So it wasn't like I was working for a traditional board. So it was kind of like a mix between coach led and a small board. So it was one of those where, they expected you to kind of get the work done. And, obviously, there's a lot more administrative things that you have to do as a head coach that I don't miss now as a college head coach, kind of a lot more spread out. I'm sure Erik gets it, but as a college assistant coach, you don't get that. So there's a lot more things there behind the scenes that I kind of had to navigate through. But again, I had that at when I was at Parkland High School and Parkland Aquatic Club. That was stuff I had to do, then. So I was kind of prepared for it when, Bob made the move to college then. So.
And so then you do make the move to college. You go to Penn State for a couple of years. And yeah, again, tell me about the transition. You said you had been interested in college. Did you enjoy that change of scenery?
Yeah, I think sometimes people, Coleman, because now I'm, I don't know how many of us there are that have gone from primarily as a club coach to college. I know Coley and, some others, have done it, but it's like people think, college coaching is less work, club coaching is more work. It's like, I've done both. I've done both at a head coaching level and, I think both club and college coaches work extremely hard at what they do. But I think it's different. Like, you're going to spend your time and energy on this, or you're going to spend your time and energy on this. It's just different, but the workload doesn't change. So I knew coming to college, it wasn't going to be like less work, or it wasn't going to be more work. It's just different. Obviously with college recruiting, you can do that from home. You can make calls at night. It's not like, physically on deck, you're not as on deck as much. And I definitely don't miss those marathon ABBC meets that we all used to do on the weekends and stuff like that. I definitely much enjoy the 2-hour college meets, 2 to 3 hour college meets. So, but it was one of those where from, we had one of our 2 daughters then, and it was one of those where if I didn't have to spend as much time on deck, that was a huge positive for me going to making the move to club coaching. Because like I said before, I knew when I was going to be a father that I wasn't going to be able to spend the MBAC hours necessary. I wouldn't be able to do that and be a dad. Mm-hmm. You just couldn't do it at a high level and be a good father, be a good, role model for your kids. You just can't do it, at the level, something, people talk about balance all the time. I'm not sure that it actually exists because you're always going to pull away from something else. So I knew that I wanted a position where it's like, and a job where I could like still devote time and energy into coaching and being on deck, but also having more time at home with them and being able to kind of spread my work out in a different way. So that's kind of where, when Penn State became available and, the coach there went down to, I think it was Duke. I think Doak went down to Duke and, that kind of opened up and it was kind of, the right timing for me and to be able to stay around, my family in Pennsylvania, my parents, Stevie's parents, my wife, it was just, it made, it was a perfect, solution at that time. So.
Yeah. Tell me about your first year at Penn State. I think after your first or second year was when Allie McHugh won nationals in the 4IM. Tell me about your time at Penn State. What would you learn as a college coach? How did you react to coaching that team coming from the club at North Baltimore?
Oh, certainly it was a lot different. In terms of the athletes, because I think, we're at NBAC, it's like, there are a certain group of athletes that want that and seek that type of environment out for their club experience. So I think, there's a like-mindedness to the athletes that we were working with, both professionally and in the high school levels, that I think you would adjust for, going to a university setting. But I think, again, one thing you're never prepared for, Coleman, is the NCAA rule book. That might as well be a boat anchor, in terms of the amount of, looks like a science textbook you had in college, so it's like trying to navigate all that and learn even the basic rules. I think I was scared. I was scared. Like when I took my first NCAA compliance test, because it's like, all right, here we go. Here we go. How am I going to look at all this? And they're like, well, take the practice test, and you don't realize how much the practice tests help that you can take online before you do that. So like, just do the practice test and you'll be fine. And, Steve Barnes, one of the longtime assistant coach there, he was very helpful, super intelligent, super empathetic to kind of leading me along. So, Steve kind of helped lead me and guide me, in terms of like how to do that and navigate through all that. And, and then getting to meet the team was fun, getting to see all the kids from throughout the country and we had some international athletes and getting to learn how to work with them and, and kind of work within the 20 hours, was good for me as well. Kind of, when you're in the club environment, you can do whatever you want, as long as you want, essentially, obviously within, basic parameters, but it was like, all right, what do I really need? What can I cut out here? And then obviously I couldn't just take the workouts we were doing at MBAC and apply it to a college environment. So again, I was very much learning how to coach again when I went to college and, how much can they do and still be effective? Where should we put in like some easier days and how much volume should we do? So it was like, even when I came to college, it was like, it reminded me of being at MBAC again, my first year. It's like learning how to coach again. So, what we were doing with Allie, was not what I was doing with, G and some others, and, Becca Mann as well, who, was really good at that time and not doing, what we were doing with them. And like, all right, kind of like, learning how to navigate that. So I think that's what I learned the most, obviously, at Penn State, Coleman, was I was trying to learn how to be a coach again, kind of reinventing myself for what's going to work for this level of athlete, what's going to work for, in terms of like age. Now it's like, it is different coaching 18 to 22 year olds than it is 15 to 17 year olds, 15, 18 year olds. So trying to navigate, that level, so that's what Penn State was for me. It was just learning how to be a coach again.
Yeah. What were a couple of those things that you kind of learned to reinvent, in terms of how are you running your practices differently compared to at North Baltimore?
For, my first year there, we were obviously, the volume and the intensity were both taken down, and that was one of those where, Bob had kind of, because he had been in college before and he was going through some of the same stuff down at Arizona State. He was helping me out a lot, my first year at Penn State, saying, hey, start a little slower, less volume, less intensity, more technique work, in the very beginning, and kind of do a lot more of the fundamentals that maybe we weren't doing as much of at the very end at NBAC with some of those athletes, just because we had already done it years before that, with a whole new group of kids,
Mm-hmm.
so it was very much like, all right, how little can we do in the beginning, and trying to say, all right, where do I think we're going to end up in in 5 months, 6 months, in terms of like, where would you like to take this volume wise and intensity? Where do you think you're going to be at the peak, and trying to imagine what that would be. So, I definitely, my first year came in, started a little slower, and I was happy I did that, because I definitely think we got a lot out of that year in terms of the progress we made. And I definitely didn't need to do as much. And then, I definitely think you saw that with Allie in terms of like, how far she got year two. It's because we didn't have to do as much year one. And, we had a place to go with the training. It wasn't like, all right, we're here. What are we going to do here? So it was like one of those where we could like, we had places to go in training and areas that we can increase. Because I think that's what you're trying to do when you're trying to get athletes to go faster, is you're trying to gradually stress them and then let them recover, and then stress them some more. And you're trying to do that over the course of a year. And, so I was happy. And that's kind of one of, some of the things we did in terms of sets that we were able to kind of gradually build in. And then year two, where we had some more success, some different athletes, I think, that was kind of the approach that we took, and, those years.
Mm-hmm. And again, year two, we saw Allie McHugh really break out on the national stage at Summer Nationals in 2018. Was there a workout for her where you were kind of like, oh, leading up to that meet, where you kind of, the light bulb clicked and you're like, this could be really good?
Yeah, there was one before I'd taken the Wisconsin job. There was one we did in May. I still have it, where it was like, it wasn't even that long of a set. It was like I stole it from Bruce Gemmel, because Bruce has been another guy that, Bruce, again, I could, if I had more time, talk about all the different coaches that have influenced me over time. Mm-hmm. But I know Bruce for so many years, so he and I have been comparing notes. But it was one day where we did 12 200s freestyle yards, and they were on 205. We had them broken up in groups of 4. And it was like, 4 kind of where we started moderate, 4 that were kind of like moderate hard, and 4 that were go as hard as you can. They were all in 205. And I think I gave her like 30 seconds break in between the groups on 205.
Okay.
And for her, it was like the last group for her at that time. So this was, again, after her second kind of year with me, and she has done obviously some better stuff since then. But at that point in time, the last group of 4 on 205, I think she was like 152, 153, 153, 152, in yards. So it was like pushing, at the end. And I think the group before that, she was, on 205, she was like 54s, 55s. And then she started out, I think, 56, 57 on the first group. So there was like good quality all the way throughout that set,
Yeah.
So then I was like, I was watching some of the earlier rounds going, well, she's either feeling good, and this is going to be something I'm going to really feel good about down the line, or this is going to be, just going to be like, move on to tomorrow, moving on to tomorrow,
Right.
Moving forward, baby, on to tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be better. But no, she had like kind of taken that and kind of going all the way through that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I walked up to the, Penn State has 2 pools in there. I think I walked up to Steve, and I was like, Steve, I think my job here is done. It was only May, but I was like, I think we're in a good spot in May, and I don't think there's too much that I can do to, mess her up at that point in time, because that's all I would be able to do. I was like, she's in a great spot here. We just got to ride this out for another 2 months. I knew all the hard work had been done. I knew we were kind of entering a phase where, it wasn't going to be as hard. And I think shortly after that, she went up to an altitude camp up in Colorado. And, there's another setup there where, people say, well, how did she know? She was doing some stuff with Leah Smith up there. Leah's in our altitude camp, and honestly, Leah is great. Leah is one of those ambassadors of USA Swimming where, Leah was up there. Allie was there. Allie was doing some sets with Leah threshold-wise, and I don't even remember the set now, but she had actually, like, passed Leah at the end. And Leah's like, Leah had come up to me, and Leah was like, I think she's going to be pretty good. I think she's going to be pretty good at the end of the summer. I was like, Leah, it's going to matter more coming from you than it is for me. I was like, you tell her. You tell her how, Leah actually at the end of that workout, Leah took her aside, and Leah, like, said, hey, Allie, you can, keep working hard. Yeah, that was a really good set. We were going really fast because I think Allie wasn't really, understanding how fast they were actually going in Colorado at that time. She first experienced kind of at altitude. And I think, Leah kind of telling her, hey, you could be good. And that Leah was somebody that she looked up to, that, that she finally got it then. And that was all in the span of a couple of weeks there in May, of 2018. So.
Yeah. Which is awesome to hear, and agreed 100%. Leah Smith, one of the great ambassadors of our sport, just such a great role model, such a great athlete, and to have a story like that, to have an experience like that, I'm sure that could change certainly an up and coming athlete's perspective on himself.
Yeah, when you have somebody with an Olympic medal, and you have somebody that everybody knows and is respected, and now they're saying, hey, you can be pretty good, much like anything else. Like, I think you see it in professional sports when, like, a LeBron James tells, a first-year NBA rookie, who's got promise, you're going to be pretty good. When LeBron's telling you something, and when like somebody like Aaliyah Smith or Katie Ledecky is telling you something, it's like, it always means more than coming from it always means more coming from a coach. So always.
Oh yeah. Which makes sense. And, but that's very cool. And so now you're at Wisconsin. You've got a group of post-grads. You've got your collegiate kids. Tell me a little bit about making that transition from Penn State to Wisconsin and how that's gone for you so far.
Oh, it's been great. Honestly, working for Yuri is exactly what, I hoped it would be. I mean, Yuri is just like everybody knows. Yuri is so in tune to everybody's emotions, and he's so empathetic, and he's been good for me as a father, first and foremost, up and above, somebody to work for as like a college coach, even though I've learned a lot from Yuri. He's my friend and my peer. I've learned a lot from him, but Yuri is such a, he's so in tune to what we need, as a staff and as individuals, that, he has done such a great job navigating all that. And then, Yuri came in, and we thought our new pool was going to be done. And then, now it's like, it's taken another year here. We're optimistic, we're filling the water. We're filling the pool right now, Coleman. We're filling it right now as we speak. So
all right.
It's happening soon, man. But, like, to see Yuri navigate through all that, and I mean, honestly, Yuri's amazing. And I think we all have such deep respect for him as a staff, for what he's had to do the last 2 years. And, I know he's going to be, very successful, and he's going to have a super successful program here moving forward. And it's going to be something that the state's going to be proud of. The city of Madison's going to be proud of. The Big Ten, obviously, we're building something amazing here. And honestly, if my girls were older, if they were not 5 and 3, I would want, my child to go and swim for somebody like Yuri, because he's going to be somebody that they're going to go to when they're having issues outside of the water, when things are going well, when things are not going well, and he's the type of person that, and that trickles down to the rest of us. In terms of, he sets that bar so high for us in terms of, like, what we're doing. And it's fun to come to work. We have so much fun. Christy King and Jenna Haney and Trevor Maida, they're such a great group of people to work with, and all of our support staff as well, that it was, again, from what I needed at this point in time, to work with such an energetic staff. And I think, we finally starting to hit our stride, recruiting wise as well. We appreciate you guys rating our classes so highly last year. We're excited about, our up and coming classes and where we're going right now with the program. And now, like I said, our new pool is being filled as we speak. So hopefully we'll have that up on the gram soon, here in the next, week or so, to kind of get that up there. So it's just so many positive things moving forward, despite everything that's going on in our society, that it's like, we have something to feel good about. And honestly, it's like, Coleman, it's like, we've navigated through an 8-lane pool, for the last 2 years. It's like, we are so excited to have, what we feel is a world-class facility that's about ready to open up here. So.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, everyone who's ever gotten a new pool knows the excitement of, I am so ready to get in this water.
You don't know how many times we're like, come on, man, let's go. Let's get in that new pool. There were so many times that we thought we were getting a little closer, and, like any new construction, man, things happen, and I think we were kind of in tune to things happening. So let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's dive in for the first day. And I think our student athletes are ready to go as well. So we can't wait to get that final go ahead here in the next couple of weeks.
So to wrap this conversation up, moving forward into the next few months, certainly into the end of this calendar year, with Big Ten announcing they're postponing, I think, all fall sports. Obviously that could have a ripple effect into swimming. What are you guys thinking right now heading into the next few months? What's your plan, just kind of taking things day by day? How are you guys reacting to all this change that is still a pretty big question mark?
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like the first steps will be, getting our student athletes back on campus. It's like, let's get them into classes first, and as much as we love to be in the pool, what we want is the best for them. Let's get them into classrooms. Let's get them going to class. Let's check off that first. Let's have first day of in-person classes. Let's have that happen. You know what I mean? And then let's move on to a week. Let's get a week of classes done. Let's get a week on campus being done. I think, you saw, UNC, kind of run into some of those issues, with their students on, and again, I understand that, and that's, so let's try to get through a week. Let's see if we can get through a week and still, keep, everything and, moving forward, and if we can do that, then it's like, all right, let's get our student athletes back in the water. Let's reintroduce them to the pool. A lot of these guys haven't had consistent work since March. So it's like, let's get them back in the water. Let's remember how much fun swimming is, and let's get them back in the pool. And that's like, we'll start out low key, and then let's get a practice done. Let's one of Yuri's favorite sayings is, let's go 1-0. We're trying to go 1-0 every day. We're trying to go 1-0 with different things. I think he's a big Washington Nationals fan, and I think that was one of their things when they won the World Series this year. So that's kind of something that we adopted this past year at Wisconsin. So let's go 1-0, and let's get a bunch of 1-0s, and and let's try to move forward. And I think that's kind of where we're headed. And if things come up and we're not able to do that, then fine. Then as a group, as a family, we'll reassess, and we'll establish new guidelines, new parameters. Then we'll try to move forward from there. It's like we're always, one of our sayings at Wisconsin Coleman is forever forward, and we're forever moving forward. And I think that's kind of a mindset that we're trying to have, with our own team, and trying to, move, forever forward at Wisconsin. And I think that's what we're trying to do, and on a daily basis. So that's kind of where we're headed in the next couple days, couple weeks, couple months. And, hopefully we can get back to our normal way of life here, soon in our country. So.
Yeah. Well, Erik, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me for a little bit. It's been fun. It's been certainly fun hearing about some of the athletes you coach, but I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, anytime. And thank you guys for doing this. Such a great thing for our sport, not only for the coaches and swimmers. I mean, I'm hopping on, and I'm always learning new stuff from you guys and Mel. And, I hope you guys can keep doing what you're doing, because it's such a great thing for our sport right now.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
All right, Coleman. Hey, man, best of luck. Keep moving forward. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good one.
All right, buddy. Take care.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.